Hey guys, thanks for tuning in. It's February 14th, 2022, Valentine's Day. Well, I thought I'd talk a little bit about my car and the stuff I've done to it. Since people watch videos here and there and pieces here and there, so they didn't get a whole grasp of all the stuff I've done. Not that it's that important, but it's entertaining. I think I'll start off with the suspension. First thing I did is I lowered the car 2 inches, and how I did that is I had the rear factory leaf springs de-arced to get the 2-inch drop. I'm not sure how much they had to de-arc it to do that. I think they had to de-arc it approximately 1 inch to get 2 inches. I cut my front coil springs. I believe it was 1 inch from its complete height when it's uninstalled from the car to get a 2-inch drop in the front. I put polyurethane bushings on the rear leaf springs and the body mounts. I have a Hotchkiss frame connector underneath there, and I'm using polyurethane bushings, and the frame connector's welded on, and I got Summit Racing brand traction bars in the back. So I got polyurethane bushings on the front subframe, and the upper and lower front control arms, I used regular rubber factory style bushings. I didn't want to have the squeak associated with it, and it gives it a little bit softer ride. As far as the suspension goes, that's about it, except for, of course, the 18-inch Riddler rims for a F-body 70 to 81 Firebird Camaro with the right offset. So that's all I did with the suspension, other than everything else being pretty well in good shape. The ball joints, tie rods, and all that stuff. Idler arm was all in good shape. So I did an LS swap. I know most of you guys know. So I got a formerly L92, which was actually an LS3 truck engine, all aluminum block and everything, same as an LS3. And I used a Summit Racing rotating assembly. So I have 6cc dish pistons. It's a 4.070 bore, so I bored it out 5 thou. I had it align honed, decked, and new cam bearings put in and all that stuff, all the goodies. The heads are stock other than being rebuilt, and the valve job, I have BTR valve springs in it. I got a BTR stage 2 naturally aspirated cam in it, and that cam, I believe it's 225 intake duration at 50, and 238 at 50 on the exhaust side, and lifted, I believe it's like 595 on the intake and 615 or something like that on exhaust, with a lobe separation angle of 113 degrees. It has a fairly smooth idle. Other things I've done to the motor, I got long tube stainless steel headers, or 1 7/8 with a 3-inch outlet. I got 3-inch exhaust from the front to the back. I'm running a 4L70E transmission with a 3000 RPM stall. If I was to do this all over again, I would have put in a stick. I think the only reason why I didn't go with a stick at the time when I was doing the LS swap is this is an original body car. It hasn't been repainted. The floors are solid on it. The last thing I wanted to do is start cutting up the tunnel, the transmission tunnel. That was a big no-no. I just did not want to do that. Even though you put the carpet and the console over it and you'll never know you did it, but no, I just don't want to do it. Now they came with the TKX, the Turmic transmission, which is a 5-speed stick, which I would love to put in here too, but $5,000 Canadian, plus you got to get a bell housing, a flywheel, a pressure plate, clutches, hydraulic clutch cylinder, master cylinder, and on and on and on. By the time I'm done, it'll be like a $10,000 thing. Even though it sounds like a $5,000 thing, it's not. It'll probably end up costing around 10 grand Canadian. So I'm holding off on that. One other thing I did do, I was watching a YouTube video, and this guy had I believe it was a Colorado on a dyno with an LS swap in it, and with a turbocharger, and he's letting her go, and guess what happened? The harmonic balancer exploded. It's a factory balancer, and the thing went flying underneath the car. He's lucky he didn't trash the car. The balancer snapped off the air conditioning bracket that was holding the air conditioning compressor. He's lucky the thing didn't go through his radiator, and that there was nobody standing around the car when they're doing the dyno pull. It just goes to show you guys how dangerous it is to do a dyno pull and having guys standing around the motor, because anything could go. You never know. You're better off being in the car or way away from the car when that's going on. Other things I did. Aftermarket coils. They're Summit Racing's red coils. I don't know. I think they're MSD. They're their brand. I got a Nick Williams 102 millimeter throttle body on it. Going back to the harmonic balancer, I just ordered a Summit Racing's brand. I think it's SUM-C2520. That's the truck harmonic balancer, because my spacing for my drive system's all truck spacing. My water pump's an LS3 water pump out of a vet, but I got a 1.75 inch spacers between the water pump to get everything aligned properly. So the Summit harmonic balancer is a rubber one. It's not a fluid damper style one, but it's fairly inexpensive, like $280 Canadian for a harmonic balancer. That's a race balancer that's SFI certified, and they have tested it up to 21,000 RPMs. I'm good with that. That's pretty impressive. I was leaning towards a fluid damper, but you know what, guys? I cannot afford to dish out $550 to $600 on a harmonic balancer. I'm pretty sure the Summit one will do the trick. The only thing that I was concerned about is the Summit Racing one, and a lot of other ones are 25% underdrive, which means it's going to slow down all your accessories. The nice thing about the Summit one is they give you a smaller alternator pulley, so it's like an overdrive pulley, so your power for your electrical system is not going to get drained out to the point where it's not charging when you're stopped at the light and your cooling fans are on and your AC's running and you got your stereo blasting and you're just draining the alternator and it's just not spinning fast enough to give it a charge. So they give you a smaller pulley, which is like an overdrive pulley that gets to speed up to the point where it's at where it's supposed to be when you're idling, where everything else, your water pump, your power steering pump, and your air conditioning is going to be 25% underdriven. I was kind of concerned about that because the water pump being 25% slower when you're stopped idling in traffic, you may run into an overcooling or overheating problem, but I've checked out the web and 90% of the guys said they had no issues with overheating, so I'm going to go with that and see how that works out. Other things that I've done. So I got a Northern Radiator, all aluminum muscle car rad it's called. I think the part number is 604020 or something like that for the F-body model. It's a 2-core wide, 3.5 inch wide, all aluminum radiator. I put one of those Optima yellow top batteries in with an Optima aluminum battery tray that's underneath there. I don't know if you guys could see it. Pretty slick, holds the battery down. You don't need a bracket on the top. And then I got these really fancy looking terminals for the battery that make the wiring a lot cleaner coming into the battery. Before I had a bunch of those little round clips with the compressed ends with the wires going into it, where these things just slide in and you tighten it with an Allen key. Much better designed. I think I got that from Amazon. Other things I did. Okay, I got an oil catch can. Didn't really need it, but I thought I'd put it in. More ventilation the better, especially a 416 stroker. Having a more volume of air underneath there when the pistons are going up and down, you need it to breathe. So I got a breather right out of the oil filler cap. I have another breather in the back on the driver's side, similar to the one on the oil breather cap. And then I also have the breather line that comes out of the passenger valve cover going into the oil catch can, and then it's coming out and it's going into the Nick Williams throttle body intake. So it's getting sucked, whatever's left is getting sucked back into the intake and being burned. It's probably going to be just steam. I can't think of anything else on the outside of the car. On the inside of the car, well, the engine is being run by a Holley Terminator X Max, which controls the transmission too, and the fuel injection system. I'm going to start her up. The other thing I did was the dash. The gauges have been all replaced. I put in, by the way, this is a NASCAR edition car. It's got the fancy seats. They only made 2,000 of them, so it's pretty rare. Even though the drivetrain's not original anymore, from the outside other than the rims, the car looks exactly stock. You can't tell the difference. Anyways, hopping in here. I got a B&M Mega Shifter. When I first put this thing in, they supply you with a 5-foot cable, and the cable for this car needs to be about 14 inches long. So you got a 5-foot cable and you're trying to wrap it around, as they recommend, on top of the transmission to feed it. The shifter was so stiff, it was like almost impossible to shift gears. Changing my exhaust system and putting a 3-inch exhaust system on, I had to move my bracket for the shifter cable that's mounted on the transmission to a different position, and all of a sudden, and I also ordered and B&M sells them, they're available, an 18-inch universal cable for their shifters. It's still a little longer than what I need, but it did do the trick, and the shifter is really, it's a little stiff because it's -10 out here. But it's really easy to shift. I think I got it neutral. Way easier than it was originally. Anyways, my gauges. You get a little bit of a light show. You have a choice of red, blue, or white. I got it set up on white right now. I got my tachometer, oil pressure, water temperature in the middle, my speedometer on the right. It goes up to 300 kilometers an hour. Fuel gauge, it's mechanical, and it's also got a percentage and a digital reading. And I got a boost pressure gauge, which I really didn't need because I don't have a turbocharger in here right now. And down below here, there's a Terminator X Max control unit, and it's also a display for RPMs, air-fuel ratio, coolant temperature, and all sorts of other stuff. All these cool things. Anyways, this thing is ice cold. Haven't started it. Nothing like the smell of napalm in the evening. Starts right up. So she's cold. When she's cold, the RPMs are at around 1200-1300. It's like it's got an automatic choke programmed into it. Once she's cooled down, it settles down to 840 RPM. Go back outside here. They look like a Trans Am Chrome one, but I haven't installed them yet. Oh, sorry about my finger there. If anybody's wondering what it costs to do all this, well, keep in mind, when you're doing a project like this, just shut her off there. When you're doing a project like this, the price could just get astronomical because you could just buy one little thing and just get nickel-dime to death buying another little thing and another little thing and another little thing. When it's all said and done, you end up spending a pretty fortune on everything. My best suggestion, if you're doing an LS swap and you're not looking for 650 horsepower and you're happy with 400 horsepower or 450 horsepower, find yourself an LQ9 or an LQ4 and throw a cam in it and try to get it all complete with the wiring harness, computer, and all that stuff. Otherwise, you're going to be getting nickel and dime to death. For example, okay, this is an L92 motor. I just got the motor. I happened to find it on my local Craigslist, and I bought the engine. It needed to be rebuilt. To make a long story short, it was a 6.2 liter. I had it in the car, and I drove it for a while until I kind of seized it up. And then here comes, obviously after that, I ended up building it into a 416 stroker. So that's the history of that motor. I actually bought it, put it in as a 6.2. I had a BTR stage 1 cam in it, with a 2500 RPM stall converter. The car ran great. Doesn't matter what speed you're going at, you shift down and you hit the gas pedal and the thing takes off like a bullet. It doesn't really spin the tires or anything. Very easy to smoke the tires when you're stopped and you step on it, obviously. But now with the 416, this thing, I got a 3000 RPM stall converter in it and a stage 2 cam. And this thing lays, it's got so much torque. It lays rubber in first gear, it lays rubber in second gear. I could be on the freeway doing 60 miles an hour and shift down to second and put my foot into it. I got 308 highway gears in it, by the way, so you're thinking, why are you shifting to second? Well, it's only going up to like 3,500 RPMs when I shift it to second. So you shift into second, you gun it, and you very likely break the back tires loose if you're not careful. So that's another thing. I always get into a situation where there's some hotshot at the lights and he wants to race me, saying, you know, this is a classic car. It's probably got only 150 horsepower at the back tires. He's driving a Hyundai or a Honda Civic. And most likely he would beat this thing if it was stock. But my problem is I put my foot into it. You don't need to. And I just spin the tires and the guy takes off on me and I've got to play catch up now. I always catch up and take off and pass the guy, no problem. But no need to floor it and spin the tires. It's got so much power. I got to just control myself and just ease into it slowly, and I will not have an issue even off the line. Anyways, thanks for watching the video. Hopefully I'll be going down to Atlanta, Georgia, and then down to Florida. I want to do some drag racing. I'm looking for a car trailer. I don't know what you guys do in February, March, April. If you guys are racing, I'd imagine you are. You don't got snow down there, as far as I know anyways. And so that's my plan. I want to do that since I got some time off. So hopefully that happens. Thanks for watching the video, and I'll talk to you guys soon.